Hi friends, welcome back to Nobody Knows podcast, dedicated to the ones who are still trying to figure it all out in life. I hope each and every one of you are doing well. If this is your first time listening, hello and thanks for tuning in. I'm Juliana and I'm a 29-year-old who has consistently felt lost in life and like I've always been behind as I navigated my 20s. I created Nobody Knows to share my experiences and advice in hopes that we can relate to one another and to normalize that we're all just doing our best to find our way. We also have guests on here from time to time to spice things up with a different perspective, knowledge, and expertise of figuring it all out. If you have been loving this podcast, make sure you're following on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and Spotify. And lastly, I would love your feedback for Nobody Knows podcast, and the best way to show your support is either through a 5-star review on either listening platform or by writing to me directly on Instagram at Nobody Knows Podcast and on TikTok at Nobody Knows Podcast, followed by an underscore. And something very exciting that I've already spoken about a bit is that we now have a website. You can visit nobodyknowspodcast.ca and you can sign up there for our newsletter so that you'll be the first to hear about new episodes, special guests, and exclusive updates. So we've made it to our Valentine's Day episode, which is very exciting, mostly because we're out of January. January felt so stinking long. It was dragging on. I died at all the memes. I think this happens every year. All of the memes that are like, it's January 78th today. It just felt so long. And I felt like there was no light at the end of the tunnel. But we made it. We're here. And I must say, February is off with a bang. I was watching the Grammys last night, and the Grammys last night was for the girls and the gays. I'm going to say that right now. Sometimes the Grammys or like award shows, they miss the mark. And last night I felt like everyone who won their award, it made sense. It was so deserving. And Beyonce finally won Album of the Year. And besides Lemonade, I can say is one of her best albums. Lemonade is like my favorite Beyonce album. Cowboy Carter is pretty top notch too. Like I love every single song on that album. But it was just so nice to see that she got her flowers. All like the top chef's kiss, creme de la creme celebs were there. Gaga, Beyonce, Taylor Swift, Chappell Roan, Sabrina Carpenter, Doechii. Who else? I just feel like a lot of kick-ass women were there. Rightfully so. And then the best thing for me that happened was Gaga announced her music video in the middle of the Grammys. And I would love to see like viewership and the trend that happened when she launched it. I think it was around like 10:30 last night. And I would love to see if like viewership for the Grammys dropped off, because I most certainly turned off the Grammys to go and stream Gaga's new music video called Abracadabra. And oh my God, I'm obsessed. I am so freaking obsessed. Obviously, I'm like a ride or die little monster. I haven't felt that rush since like 2010. Like, yes, I felt it for Joanne and Art Pop and her other albums that were more so affiliated with like movies and things. But this album I know is going to go back to her roots, like the Fame Monster, Born This Way. And I'm so excited. I can't freaking wait. Dark Gaga is back and I'm so elated. So I have had a great kickoff to February. I don't know about you. I hope you have as well. I hope that the feeling of just we're in a new month and January is officially behind us puts your mind at ease, and that you're getting into the love mood. I don't know, a lot of people kind of hate Valentine's Day, but I really like it. Even when I was single, I loved Valentine's Day so much. I just thought it was a great excuse to give myself love, or to give my friends love, or my family members love, and dress up in pink, obviously, and like bake and do some fun cutesy things. And of course, Valentine's Day isn't this week. This is obviously the first week of February, but since we're doing these bi-weekly, I won't chat with you until after Valentine's Day. So it made sense to launch this on February 3rd. But Valentine's Day is not too far off. It's next Friday, which also I think is a great day for love. Friday, I feel like, is already romantic. It's the start of the weekend and people are more inclined to actually put away work, things that they typically take as pressing, and so they don't schedule dates. But Friday sort of allows you to put all that aside and focus on love, yourself, or your loved ones. And like I said, I feel a lot of people are Valentine's Day haters, and I asked this on Instagram, and I'm actually curious to see what the final numbers were. Let me just check. Okay, here we go. So I asked, are you a Valentine's Day lover or hater? 86% of you said lover. I love that so much. And then 14% of you said hater, which, fair. You're entitled to your opinion. I would love to know why you are a hater. If like maybe you had a traumatic experience, and if you did, I'm very sorry to hear that. Or maybe you're just like of the mindset you don't need a specific day to celebrate love. I feel like you should already be celebrating love throughout the entire year, and then this is just an extra add-on. It's like the cherry on top. Well, I'm sending love to the 14% of you that said you are a Valentine's Day hater. If you are listening on Spotify, sound off in the poll that's a part of this episode. And if you are on Instagram, this poll will be up, I think today, probably in like 20 minutes, I think, because I posted this almost 24 hours ago. But you can go on my Instagram tomorrow, and I am going to post another poll if you missed it. So make sure to hop on there too to let us know. And like I said, I totally respect people's opinions to hate the day. Feel how you want to feel. Even when I was single, though, like I said, I still just love the day. It's so exciting. I get to express my love for me, my friends. Now I have a romantic partner, which is great, but I still love Valentine's Day even when I didn't have Brendan. Okay, let's hop into our journal prompt, our listener submission, Reddit posts. Every episode, we do something that brings us further together and normalizes that none of us have life figured out. And sometimes we'll review a Reddit post from a complete stranger struggling through maybe a similar life experience as you are. Or other times we'll hear from listeners and their life experiences. Like I said, my DMs are always open on social. So if you're ever wanting to be on the pod, you can also share anonymously too, but share your experience with us. I would love to hear from you. And other times we'll just do an internal reflection. Sometimes it's good to like not talk too much and just turn inward and focus on what we really need to figure out. And today we're going to do a mix of listener submissions and stories I found on Reddit that are all in relation to Valentine's Day. And I think even if you hate Valentine's Day, that 14% of you, you might still get a chuckle out of some of these. So let's start with the Reddit submissions because these were actually pretty funny. Someone wrote, there was a note in our reservation that it was an engagement. They wanted champagne, a specific seat, bunch of other stuff, and the server comes up to the table with something like, so I read that we're celebrating an engagement. Congratulations. Confusion from the woman, glaring from the guy. He hadn't proposed yet, and the server ruined everything. Okay, I have so many thoughts about this because I have given Brendan quite strict instructions on like what I don't want from a proposal. One, because of like my anxiety, and two, because I want that to be like our special moment and I really don't want an audience. But everyone is again entitled to how they want to have that moment done. But I just feel like putting such a big moment and the pressure on someone else who is not in that relationship, so like the server, is really kind of a dick move. Like, yes, the server should have read the instructions a little bit more clearly, but like the server has other tasks and duties to do. Unfortunately, your relationship is not their prime goal for the evening. You know what I mean? Like, to then put that disappointment on that server, I would feel so bad for her or him. I don't know. I would definitely cry. That would haunt me for the rest of my life. But I don't necessarily think it's the server's fault. It's more so you. Why couldn't you have done this before the dinner or like immediately once you sat down? There's just like so much pressure riding on it, as well as why do it in a public setting? It's just so stressful. I just can't. For me, I would be so anxious and uncomfortable, but that's really awkward. I really hope that doesn't happen to me or poor Brendan. What a lunch bag letdown. The next Reddit post I found was, I met my husband while I was working in a science library. He came in every week to read the latest journals and eventually decided to take out the librarian instead of the books. Okay, slay. After a year and a half of dating, he showed up at the library and started rummaging through my desk. I asked what he was looking for, but he didn't answer. Finally, he unearthed one of the rubber stamps I used to identify reference books. Since he couldn't find the right engagement ring, he said, this will have to do. And he firmly stamped my hand. Across my knuckles in capital letters, it read, not for circulation. That is literally so cute. That is like a Hallmark movie. Oh my God. That is a really cute way to propose. I think that's so thoughtful because obviously she's a librarian, as well as clearly, I don't know this couple at all, but it seems like he couldn't find the right ring for her. So now they can maybe go and find one together. Like that's another fun experience that they get to do. But it's just such a romantic idea. I love that. Okay, the next Reddit post. As a treat, I dressed up as a sexy policewoman, complete with handcuffs and a plastic gun. I tied my boyfriend up on the bed, then jokingly shot him, thinking the gun would just make a sound. Nope, it contained actual plastic pellets that don't hurt that much unless they hit your bare tackle. I'll never forget his howl and the lack of sex after. Oh my God. Like, what? I don't know what I would do. Sure, get your freak on. Do whatever you want to do to like spice things up. But props, unless they are certified like for sex, I just can't risk it. That would be just the worst. You would get through it though, but like for sure I could see how that could affect the sex afterwards. Oh my goodness. Oh dear, that's really freaking funny. Now I want to move to listener submissions because I asked on Instagram, besides the are you a Valentine's Day lover or hater, I also asked what your favorite and least favorite Valentine's Day memory was. Okay, so for what is your favorite Valentine's Day or romantic memory? Quite a few of you wrote. Someone wrote, it's my birthday, so literally every Valentine's Day is her favorite memory. That would be so fun. You could do so many cool birthday ideas from that, but also again, you're already in like the lovey-dovey spirit because of Valentine's Day, but then to have it your birthday, I feel like it's even more sentimental. That would be so cute. Oh my God, this one's so great. I lost my special edition earbuds. I don't know how, but he surprised me with a new pair for Valentine's Day. That's really sweet. I know the feeling of losing something, and specifically something that is like a special edition or limited edition, and it's like, holy fuck, I'm never gonna find this again. So for your boyfriend or your partner to find those and like go on the hunt, that's really, really nice. And I'm assuming if it's special edition, there's probably some cost to that. So that is just like really sweet and heartfelt. Okay, my best friend, Maddie, wrote, my dad bought me a goldfish one Valentine's Day. That's cute. Also, she had so many fish as a kid. You might be thinking a fish. But for Maddie, I feel like she would have really enjoyed that. And that would have been a really meaningful gift for her. Oh my goodness. Fave romantic memory is seeing the Eiffel Tower lit up at night on our honeymoon. Hell yeah. If you have ever seen the Eiffel Tower sparkly at night, all lit up, it is otherworldly. You think you're going to go and it'd be like, okay, yeah, it's just a structure lit up. But like even seeing the Eiffel Tower in the daytime, it's remarkable. It's so powerful and emotional. It's such a beautiful structure. And then to see it at night with all the sparkly lights, it's hella romantic, I gotta say. But too, it's like how I would assume Disney adults feel when they go to Disney, right? Like it's just so incredible. Ooh, okay, this is a good one. When I have spent it with girlfriends, once went to a Cirque-esque Valentine's Day show. Okay, I saw a flyer at my local coffee shop yesterday about Cirque-esque, and I think I have heard of this before, where it is like a sexy Cirque du Soleil show, and like sometimes they're nude and they're doing all the acrobats. Like, you would certainly get an eyeful, but I feel like that could be fun if you go with your girlfriends for Galentine's Day. That sounds like a lot of fun and definitely would have a laugh or two. Okay, shall we move into the least romantic Valentine's Day memories? Oh, okay, I feel like this actually ended up good. Now, this is the listener who always has her birthday on Valentine's Day. She wrote, it started off as like a poor Valentine's Day birthday experience for her because her mom pretended she couldn't celebrate her birthday with her, but then later showed up with cake and balloons. That's sweet. I feel like you have to do that if you're throwing a surprise. You have to pretend that you're not interested or like you forgot, just so it's even more impactful when you do show up for the surprise. But that's hard to do. Oh my goodness. Got really drunk at a Valentine's Day party and drunk texted. Bad idea. Ended up throwing up in a bucket. That'll do. That will do. When a boyfriend broke up with me the next day after dinner and flowers for Valentine's Day. Like, what's the fucking point? If that was me, I would literally throw those flowers in the garbage. What a weird and backwards way to like break your heart. That would definitely make me hate Valentine's Day. It's like, honestly, just break up with me on the day of. Don't fake it and like give me pity and do all these celebratory things like dinner and flowers to just break my heart the next day. That's weird. I'm so sorry that happened to you. This one would be tough too. When I had a partner who was anti-Valentine's Day. I don't understand when I hear partners don't make a big deal of Valentine's Day because they just don't like it. But your partner does, so why aren't you making the effort? Because you might not like it, it might not be important to you, but like, don't you care about your partner and what they like and their feelings and how they want to celebrate things? Just suck it up, get them some chocolates, some flowers would be nice. Let's do an activity together. Let's have an hour at least of like no phone time, focused on each other. Is it that hard? I will never understand that. Just because you don't like something and you're so against it, can't you support your partner and like take one for the team? Very, very bizarre. Okay, and then the last question I asked on Instagram in terms of Valentine's Day and love and relationships, and it's in unison with today's theme and what we're going to be talking about. It's, have you ever reached out to an ex after things ended? Now, the episode that we're going to get into is more so about how, well, in my opinion, and how I've only been with guys, they always come back. Guys always come back, no matter what. And sometimes you really want them to come back, but in the grand scheme of things, you shouldn't, and we'll get into it in a little bit. But I want to flip it and reverse it and know if you have ever reached out to an ex. Honestly, if you have, I don't blame you because I've done the same, but it's different when guys do it. And when your ex does it, it's like, ew, don't, you know what I mean? It's like, you can't do that, but like if I have to for whatever reason, okay. I know that's incredibly problematic, but the people who get it, get it. Okay, so I said, have you ever reached out to an ex after things ended? 12% of you said yes, and it was for good reason. Kind of wish I had a question box for what was the reason. I want to know. 29% of you said hell no. When it's over, it's over. Honestly, so proud of you. You are a strong human being. 38% of you are like me and said yes, and I regret it. And then 21% of you said no, but the ex reached out to you, which you must be like a hot little commodity, hot little treat that you are. I think that checks out. Like, I expected a lot of people to say yes, and I regret it. We're only human. It happens. And I feel like if we didn't do it, we would always be thinking, oh, what would have happened if I did, right? Again, I will agree, like, you need to make closure yourself, but sometimes reaching out to them can give you some form of closure. So I want to get into the topic. I saw this TikTok where a girl said, what doesn't kill you texts you 6 months later, and I howled because it is so true. And I'm actually surprised that I hadn't thought to talk about this topic sooner, because the number of times I've experienced this with, actually, when I think about it, almost every situationship or relationship that I've had, the guy always comes back. And I have so many thoughts. Now looking back in hindsight, and now that I am in a relationship, looking back at all of those situationships and how they came back, it's like, girl, I wish you just kept moving and didn't give them the time or day. First and foremost, for this entire topic, I have to say thank you and shout out my mom, because she was always right on this. Mom, if you're listening, you were always right. Just want you to let that soak in. I'm going to have to send her this episode so she can hear those words come out of my mouth. She is right also about a lot of other things too, but in particular this, because I remember being so brokenhearted and just yearning for the current guy that I was seeing at the time to like come to his senses and say, oh, let's please get back together. I so fucked up. And that happened, might I say. But with my mom, it wasn't like she was always saying they're going to come back. She actually had to take the time and think about every guy that I was dating and consider the variables, the factors of that relationship, to then make the decision to say, oh, he's going to come back, or no, he's not going to come back. Like, make that judgment call. And I remember with every guy I asked when the relationship had broken down, I was like, do you think he's going to come back? And she'd take the time to consider. Usually if this was like the first time that it happened, she would always, without a beat, yes, he's going to come back. If this was more of a pattern, then it took her a bit more thought. But I shit y'all not, every judgment call she made was right. It was actually spooky. And it got to the point where it would be more of a funny inside joke between me and my mom rather than me looking forward to that guy coming back. And for me, I think the majority of the guys wormed their way back into my life was through calling or texting or through my DMs. But my friends have outlandish experiences of guys coming back into their lives. So I wanted to Google what the oddest ways were for most people to worm their way back into their ex's life. Someone on Reddit wrote, "He poked me on Facebook. It made me feel gross and I had to acknowledge the notification each time. I would be paranoid for days afterwards. It had been at least 6 years since our relationship, but he hated that I refused to say anything to him and then blocked him when he tracked me down on a mutual friend's page." Oh my God, the poking? I would feel violated too. That is so ugh, it just gives me the heebie-jeebies. And also the fact that it would be 6 years later, you would probably have even forgotten about this guy to then just log into your socials and see that he poked you. Ew. And I have also had this happen where guys I've dated or seen or whatever are so insistent on following me on socials. And each time I either decline their request if it's on my personal page because I'm private there, or if it's on Nobody Knows, I will physically remove them from my account. I just, for whatever reason, like I said, it feels icky to me. Like we're repeating history that I don't want to be a part of. I don't think about them anymore. But knowing that they follow me, I feel like I'll be cognizant of that. And I don't want to be. I just want to like live my life, post what I want on my socials, have that in the past. I've moved on and I'm good where I'm at. We don't need to be mutuals anymore. As well as we were never friends to begin with. So what makes them think that we can be like digital friends now? I am also such a fan of blocking if things get too annoying. You just have to protect your peace at the end of the day. I feel like I'm of the mindset that I acknowledge my past, like I said. We shared a history. It didn't work out. That's totally okay. No hard feelings whatsoever. But now in my present, I really don't want you in my life, respectfully. And I don't feel the need to have you in my life. So let's just not, okay? Someone else wrote, "I always block their number and email when it ends, so they have to be quite innovative in their approach. I've had men create fake Facebook profiles and names similar to my friends so that I think nothing of it and accept their request." That is concerning behavior. Being so sneaky that they know of your friend's name, so then they create an account that's like one letter off of your friend's name. Like, what's the profile picture look like? Do they just steal a friend's photo and add that in there too? That's like slightly concerning. Same goes for LinkedIn accounts. I've had one man just turn up at my house with flowers and chocolates, expecting me to welcome him back in with open arms. Another man waited for me in my work's reception. This made me think of my friends. I'm like 99.9% sure one of her exes reached out to her via LinkedIn, which gave us all a good chuckle. It was just like so professional. And like, not in keeping with their past relationship. Do you know what I mean? About we were never friends to begin with. Why are we going to be professional colleagues on LinkedIn? It's just so bizarre. Okay, and this last one is so niche but hilarious. For all my Tumblr girlies, he spammed my inactive Tumblr for well over a year before I just deleted it. That's really funny. And as I said, you know, anyone who's listening to this episode, we can reach out to our exes, but like our exes can't. It's just the rules. I don't make the rules. But if we want to keep things fair, I know I've been dragging the men. I think it's only fair that I fess up to my fair share. Like I said on that poll of if you've ever reached out to an ex, I have. Granted, I've been pretty good in my life of believing that once it's over and there's no point in going back to that. Sure, I felt like I've wanted to, but I have put in boundaries. I've like blocked them on Instagram. I've deleted socials. I've taken a break from my phone, deleted their number, done whatever I had to do so that I physically could not reach back out to them. However, I can count just on one hand, like I said, I will confess, the amount of times that I have reached out after the relationship situationship has been done. But I feel like I was definitely a straight shooter when I tried to weasel my way back in. I respected boundaries and just like called or texted. I certainly didn't friend someone on LinkedIn. That's weird. And I most certainly did not poke someone on Facebook. Can you even poke someone on Facebook anymore? And I'd like to say for the record, if I didn't hear back, then I would just, lick my wounds and stroke my ego and be like, babe, it's okay. wasn't meant to be. Even though I was still like really hurt that they didn't respond to me, I respected that and I moved on. Some guys, some men though, I feel like just can't take the hint or like read the room when they don't get a response. And I will say that I don't think that there's anything wrong with reaching out as long as things ended somewhat okay. To all the people that responded on my poll saying I reached out but for good reason, I think that's fair. It's not like you absolutely cannot talk to each other afterwards. Everything's very nuanced. Each individual relationship is going to be different. But if you've ghosted the person and then are reaching out like 5 months later, several years later, respectfully, what the hell are you doing? That's what I mean when I say like read the room. If you've intentionally caused harm to the person you're reaching out to, chances are you're just reaching out because you feel guilty and are selfishly looking to gain forgiveness rather than actually checking in to see how your ex is doing. Going back to if you're on the receiving end of someone reaching out to you or an ex reaching out to you after a breakup, when I was in these relationships, and they had ended, I feel like most of the time I always yearned for them to come back and was just wishing things hadn't ended. However, in hindsight, I wish I had channeled that energy into myself. I certainly think I found validation from getting attention from guys rather than finding it within, for the majority of my youth and into my 20s, within myself. And I'm sure on some level, I still do it now. It's really hard to like break that habit or that belief when it has literally been ingrained in us since we were born. It's not just going to change overnight, but like I'm a little bit more cognizant of it now, as well as now being in a relationship, because I am in a what I would think is a healthy relationship with Brendan, although on some level I still do things to like get his approval that I'm trying to work through. But that's what I mean on like, it's so hard to change that behavior when that's all you've known your entire life. The time that I have spent single and absolutely on my own where I like swore off men, I was just living for myself, that did allow me to find more validation within myself. And that was really integral on my evolution and the improvements that I've made with my confidence and self-worth. And as I was writing this episode, I kind of had an aha moment. All of the times that I was really yearning for my ex or whoever I was dating to come back, I remember on TikTok, like watching those tarot card readings, like he's gonna come back in 24 hours. Like, subscribe to claim. You know what I'm talking about? Or just journaling and manifesting them to come back. That was definitely like ding dong warning bells in my head to say, Juliana, you need to do the opposite and take all of that energy and focus it on yourself. So if you are in that situation where the relationship's done, there's really no coming back from it, and you are still hung up about them and just wishing that they would see their ways and like find the light and be like, oh my gosh, I need to have them back in my life. Take a beat and realize that maybe that's not what you should be doing right now. And look at how you've shown your self-love, if you have even at this point. And also anytime that they did come back to me and I was like, finally, this is what I've been asking. This is what I have been manifesting. The lesson I should have learned the first time slapped me in the face all over again. And I had to keep getting hurt until I understood that he was not meant for me and that this relationship had run its course. As painful as it was, I needed to understand it and learn that lesson. And another thing I will say, even if you're like, no, I want them to come back, let's say they do come back. I promise you, it is never going to be the same after a breakup. No matter how far you shove your head in the sand and convince yourself that this time it's going to be different and he'll change and we'll be better together, it never ever felt good the second, third, or even fourth time around after having a break in the relationship. At least I will say when the breakup was malicious or not a mutual decision. I'm thinking of Miranda and Steve from Sex and the City. Was it the first movie or the second movie where they break up and they go months and months without being together, but they do have a shared therapist and then they meet on the Brooklyn Bridge. Moana? Well, that's also fiction. So take that with a grain of salt. But in my experience, every time we've gotten back together or tried things out again, it doesn't work. They always come back somehow, some way, they do. But will you really want them by then? Genuinely ask yourself that. And if you've taken some of what I have said with focusing on yourself, improving yourself, channeling all that energy of you yearning for them back into yourself, I promise you, you will not want them by the time that they come back. If you've done work on yourself and understood your involvement and what they did wrong, then no, you're not going to want them back. But if you've stayed in the same place, you haven't really done any internal work, you're most likely going to want to take them back. But I swear, please, please don't, because it just gets harder to let them go the longer you hold on. As I was typing up the conclusion, I wrote, I hope this episode doesn't come off as negative and as bitter as I think it sounds, but I don't think it sounds bitter. I just think it sounds like I have a new understanding for relationships and some of the really bad ones I've gone through. And this is what I would say to myself if I could redo my 20s all over again. As always, I want to hear about your experience. Have you ever had an ex reach back out to you after the relationship was finished? Have you ever reached out afterwards? How do you feel about it all? Can you have them in your life, or do you cut them off like I do, cold turkey? Well, for the most part. There's no right or wrong answer. Anything is understandable and acceptable. It's whatever makes you feel comfortable, but please share with me in the comments if you're listening on Spotify, or let's connect on Instagram and slide into my DMs. I am giving you permission to slide into my DMs. And if you've enjoyed this episode, share it with your gal pals for Valentine's Day, for Palentine's Day, or share it with your loved ones. Make sure you're following on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and Spotify. And let's connect on Instagram at Nobody Knows Podcast and on TikTok at Nobody Knows Podcast, followed by an underscore. I wish you all a Valentine's Day filled with love, chocolates. What else could you have for Valentine's Day? Conversation hearts, cinnamon hearts, a nice little treat, whether that's balloons or flowers. I just hope you get the Valentine's Day that you so rightly want and deserve. Until next time, friends, bye.